Welcome to Slash Forward. In this episode, we're going to dive deeper, reviewing one of the movies responsible for the NC-17 rating, the 1986 film Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. Let's get to it. We open on a deceased nude woman, 26, supine, suffering from abdominal wounds to the anterior thorax. We then transition to Henry as he satiates his voracious appetite and cruises up the streets, possibly with a Necronomicon in the trunk. Over crossfades to prior crimes overlaid with audio of the horrid events, demonstrating for us that Henry likes to keep busy. We watch him trawling the mall, stalking and moving on to easier targets, like this traveling minstrel who's unselective about her chauffeur. Transition from this to Becky being picked up by her brother Otis.
You look terrible.
Hey, thanks, dickweed. On the ride home, we learn Becky is separating from her abusive husband, Leroy. She intends to get settled and send for her daughter, who's staying with Grandma. Otis has a charming way of continuously bringing up Leroy and disparaging her prospects. We learn that Henry is boarding with him, paying his way in gifts that he finds here and there. He offers Becky the spare room he's been occupying, making him the kindest man she's ever met, which is sad. Henry does work sporadically as an exterminator. With no clients on the horizon, his boss promises to find him some work, and lets him borrow the equipment as a sign of good faith. Henry passes some bros footballing on the sidewalk and quickly puts his sprayer to use, cold calling his prior target while her husband is away and talking his way into her home. On the topic of jobs, Otis saunters around this gas station like cock of the walk, servicing old ladies, setting up drug deals, and snake-licking young men. After dinner, Otis goes to run an errand. Over cards, Henry recounts his troubled childhood. Daddy lost his legs, brother died unexpectedly, you know. And we learn Becky has a somewhat dark daddy history as well. She appreciates being able to confide in someone who can't judge her, and when she asks the forbidden question,
"Did you really kill your mama?"
he gives her all the macabre details, which goes a long way to forming an instant kinship of sorts. The next day finds Becky exploring the city, becoming a cosmopolitan woman. She tells Otis she got a job as a shampoo girl at a salon, and when Henry gets home, she shows off her souvenir. Otis attempts some brotherly love, but Henry warns him off. Not wanting the men to be cross, Becky suggests they have a beer to mend their strained relationship. They do, and I guess these ladies had beer in their handbags or something? The situation escalates quickly when Henry do what he do, but Otis has his back, although he's somewhat nonplussed about the outcome and risk. Henry helps him see this through the lens of an us versus them ideology, which is malleable enough to allow for the justification of murder under basically any circumstances. That evening, they find themselves in need of a TV due to unavoidable circumstances. They find the shadiest dirtbag around, and he helps guide them through the buying process.
You want cable ready? You want remote control? You want UHF?
But he gets mouthy with them for not spending enough money, so Henry freshens up his circuitry. Henry! He's not a robot! Then they take what they want, which leads to nothing but good times. And in this situation, we learn that Henry is incapable of reciprocating Becky's affection. The next day, Otis is taken advantage of in a drug deal. He wants retribution, but this is where Henry really starts grooming him, pointing out he's too connected to the client to kill him. So they set bait and find a proxy victim instead. This guy obviously knows mechanics, and it costs him his life. But it helps Otis feel better, so at least he's got that going for him. They then picnic in the park while casually making a hobo snuff film, and Henry espouses his philosophy of never creating a kill pattern, never using the same method for murder, and never staying anywhere too long. And they continue to spree, enjoying a post-mortem breakdown of their greatest plays. Becky has a conversation with her mom about delaying her daughter's arrival due to the complication of juggling parenting with being a working woman. Meanwhile, the boys are out dicking around and making pervy videos, when Otis leans too far out of the car window and his head hits a dog's head, breaking the camera. They have an argument about this even though they're not out any money, and it causes them to split up. Henry arrives at the house where Becky confirms her intent to head home. It's cheaper there, and Leroy is in jail for murder with $1 million bail, so he poses no threat. She invites Henry to go with her. He invites her to dinner to give him some time to consider her proposal. Afterward, they find Otis cashed out, and Becky takes advantage of this. Henry is, again, made uncomfortable, but is saved by Otis, so he goes out for some fresh air. He does a little smoking and stalking, eventually returning home to find Otis in the process of raping his own sister. Otis, now learned in the ways of violence, gets the upper hand until Becky gouges his eye out. This allows Henry to finish the job slowly and intimately with extreme manly penetration. He calms Becky by screaming in her face and then goes to take care of the body, which sounds juicy. They agree it's a pretty good time to go ahead and leave town, and Henry takes her in the direction of his sister's horse ranch in California, where they'll enjoy sunshine, hay, and dressage. It almost sounds too good to be true. They stay at a motel, and in the morning, Henry leaves alone. But no ambiguity here. He dumps her on the side of the road, and now he has the horses all to himself. And that was Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, a gritty and brutal peek into a depraved mind. We'll lighten things up next week, I promise. If you enjoyed the video, I'd love for you to become a part of the channel by subscribing. Thanks for watching.